There's a lot of negativity surrounding Nintendo and Pokemon, at least from what YouTube's algorithm has been shoveling down my throat. I wonder why that could be. From my last video about Legends and Game Freak, a lot of you shared a similar sentiment, which is to be expected. There were also some who didn't agree but understood my feelings towards it. For all of you who commented, I want you to know that I'm sincerely grateful for you sharing your opinions in a respectful way. My channel isn't going to be centered around hating Nintendo or Game Freak or the Pokemon Company. Plenty of others are doing very well with that right now, but I don't want my channel to be that. I like games, and specifically Pokemon, so I'm going to have fun with the ones that I enjoy. I'm still going to get ZA because I pre-ordered it in a way that I can't really cancel. I'm not going to get into the details of it, so don't ask me. Just know if I had the option, I would cancel it, and I have absolutely no plans of buying the DLC. Given that, I'm still going to play the game, but I'm going to cancel my Switch Online subscription. I've kind of been meaning to do that anyway, so don't be surprised if I make a video about it, but it's likely that I won't. So what if you were like me? What if ZA is the last straw and you just can't support Game Freak anymore? I think the real problem is that for people who really love the franchise, the FOMO, or fear of missing out, is a huge factor, if not the most important one that keeps you hooked. Game Freak really loves their limited distributions. Back in the day, you had to attend in-person events at competitions or certain stores, and as time has gone on, we've seen them get better by doing online distributions that you could get simply by connecting to the internet and entering a code into the mystery gift function. Then in recent years, we've seen them go backwards. Refer to the most recent shiny Koraidon distribution. Weeks before this were the shiny Treasures of Ruin. You must have downloaded them from Mystery Gift by the end of September, otherwise you're out of luck, unfortunately. Before that was Walking Wake and Iron Leaves. When you do limited time distributions like this, it just becomes tiresome. You have to dedicate your life to these games and the news about them if you want to keep up without missing anything. There's no reason that we shouldn't be able to come back months or years later and have these events available. By making these limited time, Game Freak has wired some of us to be hooked on every word, on every game, on every release. This is the part that I struggle with because there are plenty of times where I just want to do other things, or even just play other games. Between this and the unchecked greed that Nintendo has been displaying, I'm at a breaking point with this series as a whole, and I'm happy to look back on what it used to be. I may change my mind if Game Freak decides to put in the effort and make a great game again, but that's a story for another time. Where do we go from here? Well, that's what I wanted to discuss today. Some of you suggested some Digimon games and Pal World. I would suggest Pal World to those of you who haven't tried it. It's pretty neat, but I've played too much Ark for me to make it a mainstay. It's definitely worth checking out if you like survival crafting and Pokemon though. For me, I like what I like. And what I like is older Pokemon games. Generation 2 was my favorite. I'm Team Johto all day. A lot of people don't care for Johto for a litany of reasons, but it's my favorite. It's funny to say that because most people will point to Heart Gold and Soul Silver as peak for the franchise. I'm inclined to agree with that, but I haven't done much in Heart Gold Soul Silver outside of just beating the game. My first living dex was in Alpha Sapphire. So for myself and what I would encourage others to do, go back and play these older games. Actually experience them. When you complete the main story, keep exploring. Find every nook and cranny. I didn't even know that Heart Gold Soul Silver had a battle frontier, although apparently it's identical to the one from Platinum, I'm just learning, but that's still okay for me because I never really interacted with it in that game either. One thing I'm working on right now is a Ribbon Master. Trust me when I tell you that doing a Ribbon Master is going to take you some time and is something I genuinely recommend looking into, unless you really hate Pokemon contests. Another thing you could look into, and something that I plan on making videos about, is the combination of ROM hacks and retro achievements. Retro achievements is a website that you can make an account on that has user-curated achievements for retro games. Some games have multiple sets of achievements to work on, and achievements range from anything like a casual playthrough to Professor Oak challenges, and even some ROM hacks. Last summer I was working on completing Vanilla Fire Red. I have most of the achievements now, and more recently I've jumped into playing a ROM hack called Pokemon Emerald Rogue. I'm actually playing the 2.0 version. Emerald Rogue is either a roguelite or a roguelike. Don't ask me which, because after years of my buddy playing these types of games, I for some reason still couldn't tell you the difference. Now is your time, guy who already started typing the comment. Allow me to read the creator's description, as it will explain it better than I ever could. When you go on an adventure, all routes, encounters, and items will be procedurally chosen based on your progress into a run. After a certain number of routes, you will encounter a random gym leader who will have a procedurally chosen team of their assigned type. As you progress further into a run, gym leaders and other trainers will start using more difficult setups for their Pokemon. If you can make it all the way to the champion and defeat them, then you will have completed the run. Once you complete or wipe out of a run, you will go back to a hub area where you can buy permanent items and catch new starter Pokemon to use in the next run. As you progress further into the run, you will unlock more buildings and NPCs in this hub area to use for preparing the next run. Trust me when I say that this ROM hack is addictive. I'm probably just bad, but I'm 7 hours in and I haven't managed to complete a run yet. But guess what I'm going to do when I'm done with this video? It's absurd to me that fans making ROM hacks are far more creative than Game Freak has been over the last 10 years. There are almost limitless ways to engage with Pokemon video games without continuing to support Game Freak. Hell, Game Freak won't even make the old titles available for you on Nintendo's stupid virtual console. Maybe at this point they're greedy and brazen enough to finally release them onto the virtual console, but on top of you having to pay for their $50 a year subscription, they'll also just charge you $20 for each game you want access to. This is a joke, by the way. Don't sue me, I'm literally a nobody. Also, Game Freak / Nintendo will never release the older generations on their virtual console, otherwise you might just opt to play those instead of buying the new half-baked ones. If ROM hacks or retro achievements capture your interests, I recommend you to just search here on YouTube on how to set those up. This is my top recommendation to you if you still love Pokemon but can't tolerate Game Freak's quality or Nintendo's greed. I think for obvious reasons. I want to clarify, as with the nature of emulation, that I don't condone piracy, and I actually do legally own all of these games, as well as a way of dumping my own ROMs. This video isn't really about showing you how to dump your own ROMs or anything, and you can look into that at your own leisure or however you choose to obtain them. Capping off this video, I want to address just a couple things. I've seen people saying that the DLC for ZA is arriving so early because they had to delay the game itself. Even if that is true, I've yet to see a source for this being the case, but that still isn't really the point either. By source, I mean either Game Freak or a representative for them making that statement. Why do you feel like you have to make these excuses for Game Freak? If the game had to be delayed, they could easily delay the DLC as well, to give people time to digest the game and not leave this sour taste in everyone's mouth. Hi, I'm cutting in here real quick, denoted by the yellow bar at the top. Originally, here I was going to complain about the DLC releasing so quickly, but it looks like it's about 4 months out from when the game releases. And yeah, that's still not great, but when trying to find examples of games that did it correctly, I could only find a few, and I found a lot more that had DLC as early as 2 months from release. Obviously, I still think that's horrendous, but I didn't want to be disingenuous and try to cherry pick some examples. So that being said, we're going to skip past that part of the rant. It comes off as tone deaf, as if they don't realize that it makes them look extremely greedy. They likely do know that, they just don't care. Lastly, I've had some people call me out in the comments of my other ZA video, saying that I'm part of the problem for pre-ordering before I knew any of this. I do agree with this. I think this is valid criticism. You should call out things like this. Nobody should be pre-ordering a game before they really even know what it is. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that now. I only did it because I'm more diehard Pokemon than any other franchise. I used to be like that with Halo, and then Infinite happened. I'm no longer a diehard Halo fan because of Infinite. I still love to play MCC though. So I will not be buying the DLC. And as I've already said, I'm canceling my Nintendo Switch Online. I've also had some others just hurl vague insults, I guess. I don't know. It's actually a little hard to tell. Either way, you're not going to hurt my feelings. If you are in the camp of getting people on board with ditching Pokemon until Game Freak starts to do better, my advice would be not to hurl insults at people who are admitting that they messed up. You might end up just chasing them back to the other influencers and creators that pretend like nothing is wrong. I want to continue to make videos, but it takes me a significant amount of time to make something I really like that isn't one of these talking point / discussion type videos. Hopefully some of you stick around for the stuff I want to make. I don't really intend to make more videos complaining about Nintendo and Game Freak, which isn't to say that I won't, but I just don't want it to be my main focus. I like to enjoy games, so that's what I'm going to focus on. Until next time, I'm Zero, and thanks for watching.